Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Build Sjindustry Oil Platform number 4. Now, I'm sad to say this is going to be the last episode of Oil Platform, but I'm happy to say it's the last episode because we finally complete it. Yeah, that's right. This episode, we're going to create a bunch of fuel tanks, a place for us to store all the refined fuel. Obviously, we're going to also create a refinery bay, which is where we're going to be refining the oil. And then we're also going to be visiting the top of the power station to add a control room so that we can turn on the motors and the engines and make everything, work at the press of a button. So without further ado, we'll spin around here and I'll show you the place where we're going to put the fuel tanks. You may remember last episode, I showed you that map, that grid over the top, which was a rough kind of map of how things are going to be. And we're sticking to that. We're keeping the water tower in the top left, the left of the screen there, the power station right in the middle. The fuel tanks are going to go at the opposite side of the spire, opposite the oil tanks. Now, oil turns into fuel, but it takes a lot of oil to make a little fuel, so we're not going to need as many tanks for the fuel, especially not considering that we're pumping the fuel back into the engines. So the tanks are going to be smaller, and we're going to give ourselves more space to build a larger refinery bay. So let's jump in. I started off mapping the width of the oil tanks and the structure holding the oil tanks together and copying that, but I didn't want it to be as big as the oil tanks for obvious reasons. So as you can see here, I put down the pipes and started working from the bottom up instead this time, adding wooden waterproof transport pipes, redstone torches, and redstone engines on top of those torches so they can pump the fuel out of the tanks once we built them. Now, with those in place, it was time to build the tanks. Now, I'd gone for racks of 6 tanks, but instead of having 6 bunches of 6, I've gone for 4. And I think that should be plenty to hold all the fuel that we're going to make. I began to build up with iron scaffold, loop it around, and create the similar scaffold effect that we had on the oil tank structure. I built wooden steps up the middle and a way to get to the top. And then it was time to look at the top of the tanks. Now, I want to do something different with the fuel tanks rather than the oil tanks. So what I tried was staggering the tips. So as you can see, from left to right, they come down steep. Out of the top layer of the scaffold, put in some more scaffold to link up the power station and the fuel tanks, and that made things a little bit more symmetrical as well, because this is the same way we connected the power station to the oil tanks as well. And this is the well itself. As we spin up here, right the way up the spire. Oh my god, I think I'm going to be sick. And I'm slightly dizzy, but here we go. This is where the oil is going to come from. It's going to get sucked up that spire, through the pump, travel down these waterproof golden pipes. Golden pipes are quicker than stone and cobblestone pipes. And then the oil is pumped into this battery of tanks, stored there, and redstone engines at the bottom pump it out of those tanks into more golden waterproof pipes. It's piped along here, under this glass floor, next to the power station, to this area here, and this is going to be where we're going to be building the refinery bay. So before I started, I came over to the power station and mirrored the style that we had on the other side for the power pipes out, because we're going to be pumping fuel into the power station and water to cool the engines, and power is going to come out, and that's gold conductive pipe that comes out of there on the right of the facility. And we need that gold conductive pipe because the refinery bay needs power, and we're going to get that power to it through that gold conductive pipe. And you see me here building the pipes that are going to hook up the fuel tanks to the engines and pump them in there, and bringing the oil tank pipe under the refinery bay. I've raised it up again by 2 blocks on iron scaffold and used machine blocks as the floor. Then I mapped out with cubes exactly where I was going to place the refinery blocks. I wasn't sure how many I was going to try and fit in here. I toyed with the idea of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 even. But in the end, 4 fit best in this pattern you see I've set out on top of those reinforced glass blocks. And there down go the refineries. Connected them up with gold conductive pipe, which is how they're going to be powered. And I've come out the front of them with wooden waterproof transport pipes to suck the fuel out of those refineries. And then piped up vertically because the fuel's going to get pumped out of the refinery bay from the roof. And then sent across via a sky pipe over to the fuel tanks. You see me here popping in those redstone engines and being harassed by a spider at the same time. And once he'd gotten out of my way, I set about hooking up the pipes that were going to pump the fuel into the refineries. And now with the mechanism finished, it was time to come back to the building. And I wanted to do something a little bit different, but I wanted to keep this building quite transparent. So I've gone with glass there for the walls and steel blocks as the framework for the building. But what I decided was to change the top layer of glass to iron bars, but keep the glass on a kind of pyramid roof here, where I've combined reinforced glass and steel blocks to get that kind of striped effect. Come over with the gold waterproof pipe, which is going to carry our fuel to the tanks, and stagger cobblestone and stone pipes down to every single tank. And now with the refinery bay completed, it was time to come back to the power station. Now we've got the engines underneath directly here, but this is going to be the room that looks out over to the ocean and has the lever that we can activate to activate the engines. And what that's going to do is start the engines, which means power will be shipped out of the engines, and then that in turn will turn on the pump for the oil and the refineries. And here you see me building a circle with our old friend the circles picture, because this is going to become the base for what's going to be our Minecraft crane, our oil platform crane. This is something I was very keen to do because on all the pictures of oil platforms that I looked at, I've always seen a crane there. I'm not sure exactly why you need a crane in the middle of the ocean, perhaps to load ships and things, but nonetheless it's there, so I wanted to build one on ours. I toyed around with a few ideas with scaffold, wood scaffold, metal scaffold, and I stuck with what you see there, metal scaffold and steel blocks. I had to use the wooden steps there because there aren't very many stair steps in Minecraft, and we were stuck with what we could get, which was wooden steps. And you see me there building up diagonally with wooden blocks, which I used as framework to put down the wooden steps onto. And then you see upside down steps and right way up steps to create that kind of crane effect, that crane arm. Then I came back to the cabin, made some adjustments. You see those iron fences on the back as a kind of makeshift counterweight system, and a slightly peaked hut-style roof. Then I came down with iron fences and added a small digger shovel. Now the reinforced stone you see there around the edge of the circle, I came back and changed to machine blocks because I didn't like the contrast of it. And there we go, that's everything done. The last step, of course, is to hook up the conductive pipe and the waterproof golden pipe here to the pump itself. And then finally press the lever, hit the switch, and wait for the magic to happen. And there you see the pump extend, slowly worming its way down into the oil well. And there it comes, all the way down into our deep oil well. So then we hit the switch and head back up to the top of the spire to watch our oil getting pumped through. You see there the blue line running through the gold conductive pipe, that's the power. And here comes the oil. Ah, the black stuff, black gold, filling up our tanks. Look at that go. Look at that slip down the pipes. Then we come over to the refinery base and we can see oil being pumped into the refineries, turned into fuel. The fuel swimming along these pipes into the tanks, and then slipping its way down into the engine room. And the pumping station doing its job too, pumping the water and the coolant into the engines. So there we are. You see that gold conductive pipe and the gold waterproof pipe, thick with oil. Our tanks are already quite full, some of them halfway, some of them almost to the tip. So there's no worries about this oil running out anytime soon. And the oil making its way successfully to the refinery section. The engine's working hard as they can, full of fuel, full of water. The refinery is also working at 110% capacity. You see here I've added purple lamps and green lamps to both the power station and the refinery station, just as a little decoration. And fuel coming here along the golden pipe, pumping its way into the fuel tanks. And an orange lamp there over there on the crane, again as decoration. Well, there you are. There we have it. Our oil platform is finally complete, and man, this has been a really exciting and fun build. The great thing about when you build something this big is, when you start, you have no idea how it's going to turn out, and it can be slightly disheartening knowing that you've got such a colossal amount of work ahead of you. But if you can persevere, and if you can show the patience and determination to keep placing those blocks, to keep trying to build and outbuild yourself, better yourself, you'll find a way to build these massive structures that you can finally finish and take a step back from and say, wow, I'm really proud that I've managed to build that. So thanks for watching, and now that we've finished our TechIt expedition, we're going to be heading back to the village next episode, so I hope you guys are looking forward to that. I've been Sjin. Hit like and favourite if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.